So, compensation drives behavior. So you've got new behavior, you have new offerings, which have kind of drive new go-to-market, new behavior. So then have you had to kind of evolve the compensation model?
Yeah, very much so. And I've worked in the company for a long time, 27 years. So I sort of consider I know the company very well and know its good points and its bad points. And one of the great aspects to HPE is, it's the founding father of Silicon Valley. So we've been around for over 80 years. And if you're a successful company for 80 years, you have to continually reinvent yourself. And I think that's one of the strengths of the company is we're consistently always reinventing ourselves. But compensation plays a big part of it. And so the natural tendency of it, I think, of most sales teams is to continue doing what you've done in the past. And to your point, if you want to change behavior, you have to change compensation. And so we've had our cloud offerings as an increasingly large part of our compensation. It kind of started as of a third, and now over time it's enlarged to 2/3. We had to kind of pull that lever harder and harder to get the attention of our sales teams to retire quota in a way it's frankly harder. The sales cycles are longer, they're more complex, they're more sophisticated. Generally it involves different decision makers to the ones that we've been attached to when you're renewing infrastructure. So we've pulled that lever increasingly over the last 3-4 years.
Yeah, that's great. And then you've been on the road a bit, I saw. So you had a public sector partner summit a couple of weeks ago. How was that?
Yeah, no, it's awesome. So we had close to 500 people in DC. Saw a lot of old faces. Sarah Miles from Milestone and Kelly Ireland was there, and a lot of friends and a lot of new people as well. Spent some time with Craig Abbott as well from Kerasoft, and it was very successful. I mean, the partners were in high spirits. They are pretty excited about the year ahead. And we spent a lot of time talking to them about cloud services, obviously. We have some pretty strong offers for public sector, both federal, but also the state and local business. And, people like, Milestone, they've closed some fabulous consumption deals. So they're really sort of grabbing our new portfolio and leading with it.
That's great. And it's got to be awesome working with Antonio. Way back when I was there, we were peers. So he's CEO, now I'm me. So I don't know what that says about me, but he was always kind of hands-on, always responsive, customers, partners, kind of always had a great handle on the business then when he was doing the services. So he must be great to work with.
Yeah, he's absolutely amazing. So I wasn't chief of staff for him, but when I was chief of staff for the CEO, he was one of the direct reports. And one of the things you learn in a chief of staff job, it's not enough to make the principal successful. You've got to make the principal and their team successful. So I spent quite a lot of time with Antonio, and he's got an ability to return a communication like no one I know. Like, I don't understand how he does it. So he's in meetings all day, but he's also permanently responding to his email and participating in the meeting. So we had I spent two hours with him yesterday. We had a customer meeting and we had a leadership meeting, and at the same time he's also responding to escalations, and it's him, it's not someone else. I mean, it's not someone using his email, it's him. And so I don't know how he manages to do it, but he's incredibly responsive. And the other thing, that he's very partner centric. So Jack Margosian is an example. I spent some time with Jack,
Comport,
in DC, from Comport, and Jack wanted to bring something to Antonio's attention. I said, yeah, just drop him a note. And Jack sends him a note. Sure enough, Antonio jumps on the phone. It's as easy as that. I mean, and again, I think it's one of the good things about the culture. We don't get defensive about like speaking to our CEO, and he positively encourages it. There's always some ramifications at some point, but he's very valuable, and he's very partner centric, and he fixes things quickly.
Yeah, he's also a vouch for Jack's skiing. Pre-COVID, I used to do some partner trips with HP, and we had, I think it was Peter Quirk, Patrick Osborne, Jack and Patrick, I think, decided to peel off. and they went somewhere. I guess snow is soft or something happens, and before you know it, an hour later, Jack's full cast.
Yeah, Jack sort of seems to be injuring himself. I mean, I've got a reputation for injuring myself, but I quite often see Jack, and as you say, he's always in a cast, or I think one time a cab ran over his foot or something. So it's like, be careful, Jack. You look after
Can't
yourself.
make it up. Yeah, you're in the city. You don't know. So Terry, I don't know if it's okay to post this or not. So all in good jest. Terry says, Randy, with all the new people HP now, might be time for you to attend the next HP sales meeting, deliver your make more sales calls chant. So my interesting side note, you talk about changing behavior, right? So I came in, and obviously we had a lot of things going on, a lot of things need to be fixed, but I thought, okay, how can you really dumb it down? And, as far as I could tell, like there were some sales calls, but there might be like 3 or 4 a week. So I said, okay, let's set a goal of 10, should be kind of 8 to 10. If I can go on that, everybody else should be able to. So on the one hand, it was a pain in the ass for me, but it kind of really just helped to kind of evolve it. And then I don't know if you knew, but then we do this kind of, what are you going to do more? Yes, do the sales call chant. But it, first was kind of somewhat joking, but then it kind of really evolved into something that was a serious mantra. I'm like, okay, forget everything else. If you just do the sales calls, then you got pipeline and everything, you got orders and everything else. So that's the story behind the story.
Yeah, no, well, and now with sort of modern tools as well, you pretty much know what your sales teams are doing. And I mean, when I was a sales manager back in the day, when I first worked for one of my sales managers, you had to be in the first thing in the morning and last thing at the end of the day, and was basically to report out what you'd done in the day. And now sort of the world has evolved. You don't need to check in with people every day to understand what they're doing. But as you say, like if you just keep attending to that as a core principle, you won't go too far wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You got Gong and other, kind of great technologies out there as well. So a couple go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say it's pretty impressive the amount of intelligence that's getting brought to the sales profession. How this. I mean, I spent some time with a company that looked at sort of sentiment analysis during a video call. I mean, it's pretty impressive, and so you don't need to lisp if you're a sales manager for a digital sales rep. It used to be the case that you spent a whole morning with them listening to make sales calls. Now you just get a file and it shows the sentiment analysis. You go straight to the place and said, look, what was the consequence of this action, this sentence? So it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. So back in the NCR, you said you started as an order analyst. You've had a front row seat to see kind of sales ops evolve to kind of rev ops. And some of the tooling there. Kind of what perspectives do you have?
Yeah, so I mean, we've done a lot of work with the tooling now. It used to be, you had an instance of Salesforce, and that was it. And now there's a whole suite of tools for prospecting, for outreach, for connecting with the new, intersecting customers before they've reached out to you formally. I mean, it's well known that customers reaching out later and later in the sales cycle. So sales teams, being the creative individuals they are getting more and more judicious with what tools they use to intersect and understand what a customer's interested in before they reach out. So the revenue operations is a really big part of, I think, running a really good sales team. What do you instrument? What do you look at? What do you inspect? Trying to make sure you lose sight of the wood from the trees. And that's the role that Scott Wood does now, and because he's worked extensively in the sales function, he's very good at it. Right. But it's hard. I think it's an area that's really quite difficult to do very well. It's really easy to be overwhelmed with the amount of information we've now got and lose sight of what's important.
Yep. Yeah, totally. What about examples of sales leaders that you respect?
Well, I mean, I've had the privilege to work with a lot of great sales leaders. My current boss, is very good. He can't move on without making sure that's known. So Heiko Meyer, he's
Heiko.
Heiko. He's I think a very a good sales leader. He quite different from many sales leaders in the respect that he he's not a grandstander. He's softly spoken, but he's an absolutely fabulous listener. and so he doesn't say a lot, but he gets to the nub of the heart of the problem quite quickly. So he's been very talented, but I've worked with Phil Davis, who's now at Google, and who was I found to be a good sales leader. One of my early mentors. I had a couple of really good sales leaders I worked for. A guy in the UK by the name of Mark Pilgrim, who's now retired, and he was my sort of first sort of really good sales manager. And I've had lots of people. I mean, try and take a bit of something from everyone is kind of my mantra.
Yeah, absolutely. What about mentors that you've had, and any nuggets, maybe one or two of specific advice you received?
Yeah, so I mean, I did some work. I basically have a coach. I mean, I think most people do have coaches, but I paid for my own coach at a time when the company wasn't paying for it, and so I worked with a guy called Asher Rickaeisen, and he's based out of the UK, and they essentially help leaders with disrupting from within. A lot of disruption comes from small new companies, and this is about how do you kind of challenge the existing environment whilst being a part of it. And so I meet with him once every 3 months. It's a bit like a doctor's surgery for business.
Yeah.
I can tell him everything that I'm worried about or thinking about, and really, they just do. The talented people here do a great job of drawing out from you what is it what's the problem you're trying to answer, and what's important. And I just find it a good practice to continue to sort of attune myself to what's important. And you see, again, it's easy to be distracted or by email or the demand of the day. You don't actually get anything done.
Absolutely. That's great. So from Jonathan Copeland, he asks, what makes a good technical pre-sales person? The tech skills or the sales skills, which can be trained and which needs to be inherent in the personality. So as we said before, the solution architect function at HP is so very crucial and such a strength of the company.
Yeah. So, I mean, my wife is used to be a solution architect. She's now a technical writer, but I mean, I've been in and around those communities a long time. I've got a deep affinity for it. So I'd say that the foundation is you've got to have good knowledge, but that can be taught. And you need to combine that with, as Jonathan says, good skills. Good skills are harder to teach. Of course, they can be learned, but I think they're harder than the knowledge, as long as you've got the right curiosity. So kind of for technical people, I think one of the things that really good technical people do is it sounds simple, they ask really good questions. They're really searching in getting to the nub of what's at the heart behind the question, rather than diving down the path of sort of a technology interest conversation. So good listening skills, good questioning skills, I've always found in the best technical people, but built on a foundation of great knowledge.
Great. So last question for you. What advice would you give the younger Paul Hunter?
Worry less. Worry less and listen more. Yeah. I mean, sometimes everything seems like a crisis when you're young. It's a crisis of urgency. Why haven't I done what I wanted to do by the age of 22? Why am I not ruling the world? Why are people not listening to me? And as you get older, you realize it's more about, like, who am I working with? Am I enjoying myself? Do I find it rewarding?
Yeah.
Am I helping people? And your younger self doesn't really have that perspective.
Yeah. You did you overlap with Peter Ryan at all?
Yes. Yeah, I did.
So,
and I stay in touch with Peter. He's someone I will phone for advice.
Yeah, great guy. I was with him at Sun, I think. Yeah, Sun, and then HP.
Oh, wow.
But the reason I bring it up is he'd always get asked in town halls, kind of, what keeps you up at night? And he'd say, nothing. I going to sleep. I'm fine. I try not to worry too much, and it's going to happen. I mean, it's such a great,
Yeah,
great,
yeah.
right?
No, exactly. I think if
zero
you're
worry less.
if you worry too much, it's an inhibitor. It definitively is an inhibitor because you know, particularly as you progress or it gets more complicated, there's more to worry. There's more that can go wrong. So you just would end up worrying more, and the scale of the mistakes can be bigger. So then you end up worrying more. So if you haven't got Peter's attitude or some version of that, it's pretty hard. You need a counselor, and probably a lot of us do need counselors.
There you go. Anyway, so you've been great. Time flies when you have fun. So for those who've been watching, Paul Hunter, Senior Vice President, Managing Director at HPE for North America. For those that are members of the sales community, thanks. For those that are not, you can go to salescommunity.com, see a free link. And we're sponsored today by Gong, the revenue intelligence sponsor of Sales Community. So, Paul, thanks. Really appreciate you squeezing us in here on a Friday, and wish you the best for the rest of today and a great weekend. And
yeah,
Tucker,
thanks, Randy. Yeah, great to speak to you, and go Alabama.
There you go. Roll Tide, as they say.
Roll Tide. Thank you.
Roll Tide.
I need a translation.
There you go. Not War Eagle. That's off here. Roll Tide. All right. Well, thanks a lot.